Morning folks. Oh, it's a bit cold this morning. It had been getting warmer, enough to take my hat off, but it's about 2 degrees in the workshop this morning. Sunny outside but cold inside. So the hat's got firmly back on. Now, while assembling the bike, I discovered something, which was that the Magneto, which came with the bike, was not the one that was originally fitted to the bike, or the same type as the one that was originally fitted to the bike. And I found this out by just trying it in place on the Magneto platform and finding that in the main, the most obvious sort of telltale sign was that the spindle that turns to generate the spark on the Magneto was too high up and wouldn't fit through the hole in the Magneto drive case. Now I'll show you that in a moment. But it just made me think that there's perhaps a few bits and pieces that I know about Magnetos that you guys may not. So, you know, okay, if I'm boring you, have a sleep for a couple of minutes. But other than that, this is just a brief, I suppose, description of Magnetos, their origins, and where we are with them when we come to these vintage bikes. So let's have a look at some different types of Magneto. So this is a Bosch ZE1 Magneto. This one is from about 1912, 1913. It works in the way that virtually all Magnetos after this did work. You have a driving gear on the front of it that rotates it. There's an arrow that gives you the direction it needs to rotate in, either clockwise or anti-clockwise, and that's usually viewed from this side. Now, that turns a winding in a magnet, and this big black bit at the top is a magnet, and there's a north pole on one side, south pole on the other side, and as the winding is turned inside the magnet, that induces a current in the coil in the winding. Now, there's a secondary coil in the winding, and when the points that are at the back, open the points cover and pop the little plate out there. In here is a points mechanism. This rotates, and there is a cam. Got a pokey thing to show you. There is a cam ring that goes around the outside of here, and by a cam ring, it's just a higher piece of the outside with a slope in and a slope out, and there's a little pad here that, as it rotates, when it comes in contact with the higher bit, the cam ring, it will open the points. Now, that's designed to happen at the point where the maximum amount of current has just been induced in the bigger coil in the rotor or armature, and by opening the points, it collapses that magnetic field, electromagnetic field, and by doing so induces a high voltage electric current in a smaller winding, which is also within the armature. Now, it does that at exactly the point that those points open, and that then creates this very sort of high voltage current that will then create a spark. And you know, it's really successful and really reliable. This particular Magneto has been rewound, but I would say more of these Bosch Magnetos from, you know, 120 years ago that are in use today have not been rewound than have. Most of them are still going, and mainly that's because they were built really well. Now, they are a phenomenal bit of kit, and you know, they work very reliably, hence why most motorcycles used a Magneto to generate the spark right through until the 70s really. But this is a really sort of popular Magneto. It is a ZE1, as I've said, and you know,
they're just, well, for want of a better description, they're bulletproof. Now then, can we get a spark off it? I'll try not to electrocute myself. I can tell you that worked because it just gave me an electric shock. Blooming heck. Yeah, right, okay, I'm going to try this again without giving myself an electric shock. Don't know if you can see that or not. Right, I've set this up with a spark plug because it's easier to show, I think. It's easier to see. So, here we go. If you just turn it over, you can see. And that's just by me turning this at a relatively slow speed. Every revolution, the point's open and it gives a nice spark. That's exactly what you want. Reliable Magneto. Now, up until 1914, this was the Magneto of choice. Everybody used them. In the main, they were brilliant. And even now, Bosch, their symbol, their company logo, is a circle with a strange sort of H shape inside of it. And that H shape is a Magneto armature. So their logo still hails back to the days when this is what they were making, bread and butter. Now, something happened in 1914 that meant that countries outside of Germany didn't have access to these. Really, it sparked, if you pardon the pun, a real change in the British sort of motorcycle industry, because until that point, like I say, most manufacturers had been using the most reliable Magneto you could get at the time. But that suddenly wasn't available anymore. And so there was a few others stepped up into the marketplace, notably Lucas, who I'm sure everybody's heard of. Now, here we have a Lucas Magneto. This one has got a date stamp on it. It's a K1 Magneto. Normally, if you look at a Lucas serial number, the last 3 digits will tell you the year it was made. But I can't see a serial number on this. There's a number, but it's not the usual serial number. Anyway, you will see it bears a striking resemblance to the Bosch unit. It's still got a big horseshoe magnet. It's still got a spindle on the front of it that spins. It's got a pickup that sits at the front of there, which plug lead attached to it, points at the back. And what I didn't point out on the Bosch Magneto is that there is a point where, again, pardon the pun, where you can alter where the spark happens a little bit. You can advance it and you can retard it, and this is to give you a smooth running of your engine. So this unit here is the advance and retard. The Bosch one has the same sort of unit on it, or similar, and that's your Lucas Magneto. Now, here we go, the Electric Ignition Company, EIC. Here's another Magneto. Again, striking resemblance to the Bosch stroke Lucas unit. And these things, the Lucas, the EIC, and so on, were all being made in a panic at the, in 1914, so that the British Army could put lots and lots of War Department motorcycles into use, and cars, but these are single cylinder ones. But there was a huge demand, and essentially Lucas moved from making gas lights into making ignition systems at that point, and really never looked back, because they've been a huge automotive electrical component manufacturer ever since. So I suppose it was a big turning point for them. Now, the reason I brought this EIC Magneto out is that they didn't make these for very long. They only made them sort of mid-teens to mid-20s, so they were only around for about 10 years. There's not that many of them. I happen to have 2, strangely, but one of them came with the Raleigh, and I was told it worked, so we had a little bit of a look at it. I sent for help. A friend of mine who knows a lot more about these than I do had a look at it. We got some replacement parts. some new brushes and a new pickup, although the pickup is a modified one from something else. And what we ended up with was this, another lovely EIC Magneto, but this one's a lot cleaner, fully serviced, looking good. Yeah. Now, again, this will produce a nice spark, and that's something we're all very happy about. You know, that's what we need. We need a nice spark on this bike. Otherwise, when I hopefully set off en route with it, we're going to have problems if we don't have a good spark. And you know, most of the time, if you've got a problem with a motorcycle not running, it is usually a vintage motorcycle. I should quantify. It's usually to do with a Magneto ignition system, and by that I don't mean it's faulty. What I mean is it possibly hasn't been looked after. The points haven't been cleaned or whatever. But it is usually down to maintenance more than anything. Now, so great, you would think, all fit for use. Well, one of the things that I haven't mentioned is that in Magnetos there is a bit of standardisation. There is the standardisation of the base, so the mounts. There's 4 3HB SW holes in there, and they are all at the same centres, and that's how you mount the Magneto on a platform. So in the main, these things are pretty interchangeable, until it seems you get to the Raleigh, or this Raleigh, because it doesn't have 4 mounting holes in the Magneto platform. It has 2, and they're not at the same centres of 2 of those. So fortunately, I do know that ML made a Magneto with a base plate on like this, and those holes line up. So I suspect this had an ML Magneto on when it left the factory, which is a bit of a pain, but nothing a couple of holes drilled wouldn't sort out. Now, the other bit of standardisation on Magnetos is spindle height, and there are 2 standardised spindle heights. One is 35mm, one is 45mm. This Magneto is 45mm. The Raleigh is designed for a Magneto with 35mm spindle height. So currently the spindle doesn't go through the hole in the timing case. Again, I could modify this with a few holes and make it fit, but I'm not keen to do that because it's an original platform. It's in good condition, and if I can get hold of the right mag at some point in the future, then I will probably fit it with the correct platform. So I'm going to quickly fabricate a Magneto platform which sits slightly lower on the mag rails. So I've cut a piece of plate, 3mm plate, nothing more. This is going to get 4 slots in it. Then I've got 2 pieces of angle. These will get 2 holes in them each, a little bit of welding, and we should have something that resembles this, but will put the Magneto in the right place. So that's this morning's job. So this is the original mag platform. Sits on like that, but where the holes are drilled means that it sits if I can get the screw through, there you go. It sits in that position, so you can see there's 10mm worth of rise on there, and if we offer up the Magneto, you can see that the spindle only just goes through the hole, and if you put a sprocket on the inside, it would catch on the top of the casing, so that was no good. So for comparison, old one, new one, got some slots in for adjustment. It's exactly the same idea, a little bit heavier, so use slightly thicker material. That sits on there like that. the bolts go through, and as you can see, it doesn't lift that up at all, so it's dropped down at this level. And then when we pop the magneto on there, perfectly in the middle of the hole, just there, or there I should say. Perfect fit, and with the slots it'll sit quite close up there. Try and get a little bit of a rubber gasket in there or something just to stop any moisture getting in. Job done. Now all I have to do is paint it and fit it. So I'm really pleased with that. Little bit of tidying up with the magneto as well, and yeah, ready to go. So really pleased with that. Once again, thanks for watching.